I don't know why I don't need to get into it, but the adopted budget and actuals for 21-22 were very different. We're aligning more, I think, but we have gone from adopted budget in 21-22 to this year, or this recommended budget of 86. That's a significant increase. So I mean, that's again that more of an editorial comment. But again, I'm going to say that I would like to see even more. But I just want to point that out, because when you're looking at the staff report and you look at things like, and they're right next to each other, we have road pavement rehabilitation projects, which we all think is important. But then and the $20 million of one-time net county costs that the board asked to be put in there. And then right below it at the next bullet is substance use disorder residential treatment, $10 million. It looks like we're, prioritizing our SUD programs and residential programs at half of what we would be for the road pavement rehabilitation projects. And that's not entirely the case when you look at the overall budget. That's correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's a great point. I mean, I think it's important not to lose sight of the totals.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Supervisor Kennedy. Supervisor Serna.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I too had a very similar comment about this slide. And with all due respect, Amanda, I guess if I was doing the presentation and knowing the amount of rightful public scrutiny on the subject of the tragedy of homelessness in our community, and the fact that it is our number one issue that we're trying to find resources to address, I would have had a separate slide that put into more context the $6 million, because if I'm the public and I happen to just see this slide, it seems like we're not prioritizing homelessness based on the comparative figures here, and that's to Supervisor Kennedy's point. You mentioned it briefly, but can you give us or remind us and remind the public what percentage, or hopefully you have the real numbers, that we actually prioritized out of ARPA for homelessness?
Sure.
To underscore the fact that it's not just our annual budgeting consideration in terms of prioritizing what we do on the homeless front, but it's also a great deal of the one-time funding we get from the federal government.
So, yes, you're right. A great deal of the ARPA funding was prioritized for homelessness, and I apologize, I don't have I can tell you the number in the budget, which is, I think, not the answer to your question. But we do have within this budget about $33 million of what has been allocated for housing and homelessness for projects that have already been approved. As you know, there are projects that are under development that will be funded with ARPA in the future. And I don't know if Emily has that number.
Is it somewhere in the neighborhood of 45, 50 million?
You also know it off the top of your head.
Oh, okay, please keep your comments to yourself, please.
I believe you're right. I believe it was 49% in round one. The second round may have been a little bit different because there's some different allocations. It was 49% of round one ARPA, and then second round was $35 million. So I can't do that math backwards, but maybe Amanda can.
And I do have the total now is $95 million total.
Okay,
out of both. Yes.
So that's our annual budget and ARPA?
No, that is just the ARPA.
That's just ARPA.
$95 million. Yes.
So I know that our county executive has been attempting to educate some folks about the amount that we spend on homeless services. And again, to the point made earlier, you could look at this slide and say addressing homelessness $6 million, but there's really a lot more to it than that, because there's overlap with SUD treatment and mental health initiatives that fall into that category. So maybe, Ann, you could explain the $181 million that you've often cited.
Yes. So overall, annually, we're spending approximately $181 million. That covers things like shelter services, transitional housing services, permanent supported housing services, mental health, substance abuse, garbage cleanup. So it's really comprehensive, the things that are into that number, but it does cover a wide variety of things, and the annual number is about $181 million and rising with these additional investments.
Great, thank you.